a union of mind and body, marrying the mind and body together via the breath. In yoga, we use various breathing techniques to culture, to manifest different states of mind. Breathing techniques in which you elongate the exhalation tend to trigger or turn on the parasympathetic nervous system response. There's two branches of this nervous system. There's the sympathetic, which is the stress response, S for stress, S for sympathetic. That's the lions and tigers and bears, and I've been watching the news and locked in my house lately. Oh my! Stress response we've all been living in recently. And then there's also the parasympathetic response, the pass-out response, the rest, recovery, rejuvenation, what your body forces you to do when you are sick. And like you are in bed, resting, cultivate a long, slow, deep exhalation. As you notice your breath coming smoothly in and out through your nose, past a slight constriction in the base of your throat, you can count silently to yourself. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Notice the duration of the inhalation and the duration of the exhalation. And as you settle in, let your bones settle, let your muscles fall from the bones. Let yourself root and ground onto whatever you were sitting upon. Create more space for your breath within your body by softening and yielding. Strive to cultivate a 4-second inhalation and a 6-second exhalation. Inhaling for 4, exhaling for 6. So just observing without judgment, a detached observation of the duration of your breath. Paying attention to your breath, turning your attention inward when there's so much going on outside in the world can be quite challenging. Your mind is always looking for something new and novel and interesting to pay attention to. When you train your mind to focus inward, to find stillness and peace, sometimes it's a mental obstacle, a desire that you have to set aside that prevents you from settling in. So if random thoughts crop up, your mind begins to drift and wander away from your task. Again, it's a simple task, just monitoring your breath, counting the duration of the inhale, counting the duration of the exhale. If, when a random stray thought comes to mind, acknowledge it, observe it, think to yourself, that's an interesting thought I'm having right now, and then set it aside. That third person perspective, that outsider's observation of that random thought, allows you to disassociate from that thought, allows you to detach from that thought and not be distracted by that thought. So again, the task is simple. Inhaling and exhaling, counting the length of the inhale, counting the length of the exhale, surrendering, settling in, allowing a 4-second inhale, permitting a 6-second exhale, acknowledging stray thoughts, dispassionately, detachedly acknowledge them. Think to yourself, that's an interesting thought, and set it aside. Be kind to yourself. Acknowledge that this is mental discipline and it is hard to stay on task. Again, distractions are rampant. Give yourself permission to not be perfect. You have not mastered this skill yet, but there's always another day. Slowly let your eyes float open. Begin to wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, wiggle your jaw, wiggle your nose. Take a great big open mouth yawn and begin to spread through your fingers, extending your arms up and overhead. And start to stretch, reaching up through one hand, reaching up through the other, creating space in your side body, giving yourself permission to take up space and be present in this moment. Continue to breathe slowly, deeply, fully, stretching, yawning each and every breath, in and out, stretching, lengthening, moving, expanding outward. And release your arms down by your sides. Turn your palms forward. Take a great big shoulder shrug, a great big yawn. Let the weight of the world melt off your shoulders as you grow your fingertips down towards the ground. Press up tall through the crown of your head. Begin to tick-tock your head side to side. Now I have my palms turned forward, my fingers spread wide. I'm even pulling my thumbs back a little bit like I'm hitchhiking. I'm showing you the part of my inner arm that does not have a tan. As I tick-tock my head side to side, maybe wiggle your jaw, maybe work up a good yawn. Then pick a side, any side. I'm letting my head fall over to the right. I'm still growing my fingernails down towards the ground. Palms are shining forward. If you would like a little bit more intensity on that neck stretch, you can take your right hand up and over, split fingers alongside your ear, and add the weight of your hand to your skull. And breathe. Observe the duration of the inhalation, the duration of the exhalation. Can you de-stress? Can you continue to stimulate that parasympathetic pass out response, even in awkward positions, even in a stretch? Then move that right hand over to your right ear. Push your head back up. And let's switch sides. Again, palms forward, great big shoulder shrug, great big yawn. And let your head fall over to the other side. Take a moment to observe your breath. Let your body settle in. And then if you need more intensity, that left hand can come up and over, split fingers alongside your ear, adding the weight of your hand to the side of your head to intensify that stretch. And to keep my neck muscles relaxed, I'm going to use my left hand to push my head back up to center. Once again, great big shoulder shrug, great big yawn. Take your chin and tuck it into the notch at the base of your throat. Let your forehead bow to your heart. Shrug those shoulders down your back and hitchhike your thumbs back behind you as far as they'll go. Keep your shoulder blades kissing in the midline of your back. Shoulders down away from your ears, chin tucked into your chest. And if you'd like, you have the option of bending your elbows, placing your fingertips at the back corners of your skull. Again, continue to breathe into your heart. And exhale, let your shoulders melt away from your ears. And let your hands release from your head, arms down to your side. Slowly let your head come back on center. You're going to pick a shoulder. I'm going to turn and look over my right shoulder. Reach up with my left hand and massage my left ear. I'm going to pinch the earlobe, pull on the sides of the ears, pull up on the tip of the ear, really chew up that left ear as I turn and look over my right shoulder. So I'm pinching and squeezing and scrubbing and rubbing that left ear. Turning my head as far to the right as it's willing to go this morning. And when that left ear is hot, you've got blood flowing to it. That blood is passing through neck muscles on the left side of your neck, promoting circulation and blood flow into those muscles. So maybe the muscles get a little juicier and maybe they stretch out a little bit further. Maybe your head turns a little bit further. And then switch sides. Coming back to neutral, turn your head the other direction. Turning your head to look over your left shoulder, reach up with your right hand and do the other side. Pinch and squeeze and pull on the earlobe and rub between first finger and thumb. Really chew up that ear, your right ear, as you turn to look over your left shoulder. Check in with your breath. And then come back to neutral. Once again, palms forward, great big shoulder shrug, great big yawn. Inhale, arms come all the way up and overhead. Interlace your fingers, turn your palms up towards the sky. Squeeze your biceps up alongside your ears. Let your shoulders drop down away from your ears. The sides and the back of your neck are long. Your head is centered, gazing straight forward. Nice deep chesty breath as you push up through your thumbs, maybe pull back through your pinky fingers. And keeping your head on centered, you can bend your elbows, bring your hands behind your head. Palms turned up is a little bit more intense than palms turned forward, so you choose your own adventure. Shoulders continue to drop away from your ears. Head on level and straight. Deep chesty breath. And then exhale, release. All right, from here, I'm going to come off the blocks, come off whatever you were sitting on. And you're going to do what I call mud flap lady pose. I'm going to turn sideways a little bit. You orient any way you like. I'm turning sideways so you can see what I'm doing with my shoulders. Got my legs out in front. My knees are bent enough to put my feet flat. My heels are away from my hips, but my knees are still bent. Feet are flat. I'm going to take my shoulders one at a time. Hitchhike. It's my ear. Shoulder shrug up, back, and down. And then plant that hand pointing backwards. Second verse, same as the first. Shoulder shrug. It's your ear. Hitchhike, thumb, back, and down. Now, if when you come into this position, you have elbows that tend to lock out and hyperextend, you have two options. You can either maintain a slight bend in your elbow or turn your fingers to point forward so you don't have to worry about your elbows. So choose your own adventure. We're striving to get a stretch across the front of the shoulders without locking out and hyperextending elbows. If your fingers are pointing backwards, I'm going to encourage you to work your pinky fingers narrow, closer to one another, and let your chest bulge out. Again, think about mud flap lady on the back of a semi-truck. Chest pushing forward, chin slightly tucked as you let your head roll around and back. Let your head fall off. With your shoulder blades pinched together, there's a nice cushion of skin there between your shoulder blades that you can rest your head on. Only let your head fall back if you can breathe. Elbows unlocked, chest pushing forward. If you would like a little bit more throat stretch, you can take your bottom lip over your top lip and pout. Bottom lip over top lip and pout. Now, the more you project your chest out, the more intense that throat, neck, and shoulder stretch will be. Again, please monitor those elbows, especially if you're a bendy. Keep those elbows unlocked. Let your head roll around to the side and then come on straight. All right. Let your knees tick-tock side to side like windshield wipers. One hip will lift up, then the other. As you tick-tock your knees side to side, you'll notice you get a little extra stretch on one shoulder, a little extra stretch on the other shoulder. Tick-tocking side to side. The next time your knees fall over to the right, let your head roll back and around. Let your chest puff up. You're getting a little extra stretch on the outer left shoulder, your head hanging back. Knees have fallen over to the right. Then head rolls around to the front, knees come up, and they tick-tock over to the other side, falling over like dominoes, so your legs are still staggered. Chest puffs out, elbows unlocked, head rolls around to the back. And again, long, flowing, mud flap lady hair. Chest lifted up towards the sky. Getting an extra stretch on the right shoulder. Then head rolls around to the front, and you come back to neutral. From here, you're going to bend your elbows down. I'm going to put my palms flat and slide my fingertips underneath my butt. Elbows come in narrow. If you're familiar with fish pose, we're kind of heading in that direction. We're doing a modified fish. So elbows are narrow. Knees are bent, feet are flat. Chest puffs up. Knees tick-tock side to side. One hip lifts up, then the other. Both knees fall one way, then both knees fall the other. Domino legs. And once again, both knees fall over to the right. Head rolls back and around, chest puffs up. Really push down into your elbows and puff your chest up towards the sky. I challenge you to breathe. And then head rolls around to the front, knees come up and over to the other side. Second verse, same as the first. Puffy chest, head rolls back and around. Throat is open, heart is open, shining up towards the ceiling. Deep, slow breaths. Even with your throat open and your heart shining open, you're able to breathe smooth and steady. And then head rolls around to the front. Our knees come back up. All right, we're going to go all the way down into a fish pose. Palms flat down on the floor underneath your butt. So for me, my wrists are kind of about where the waistband is. So fingertips underneath my buns, legs slightly bent, knees bent, feet flat, shoulders squeezing together, elbows narrow in close to one another, puffing up my chest. And again, letting your head roll back. So with your head rolled back, resting on that piled up skin between your shoulder blades, continue to push into your elbows, puff your chest up, and then press your inner thighs away from you as you extend one leg straight. Press your inner thighs away as you press the other leg straight. Both legs straight, inner thighs descending down towards the ground, feet flexed flat, toes flared. Breathing. So even here, for me, I tend to close my eyes when I do this. So can you have your open heart, open throat, eyes closed, deep breathing. Then head rolls around to the front, and you're gonna widen your elbows and slowly lower yourself back down. bending one knee at a time, putting both feet flat on the ground. Knees bent, feet flat. Arms open out to your sides. Palms turned up. The knees bent, feet flat. Arms open out to your sides, palms turned up. Let your feet be as wide apart as the mat. And let your knees tick-tock side to side like windshield wipers, all the way from one side, all the way to the other. Moving slowly, breathing slowly, synchronize breath with movement so that as your knees come to center, you inhale. And as you exhale, your knees fall over to one side. Inhale to center and exhale over to the other side. So again, breathing slowly, moving slowly, synchronizing breath with movement, letting your attention turn inward. And the next time your knees fall over to the right, observe, notice if you need a pillow or a block underneath your head. So if swallowing is uncomfortable or difficult, if your chin is sticking up higher than the tip of your nose, you probably need something underneath your head. Both knees have fallen over to the right. Your legs are still staggered like dominoes. Notice that your right foot is near your left knee. Your left foot is floating out to the side of your body. You can reach down with your left hand and hike that left foot up towards your left armpit, maybe turning the toes up towards the armpit. Don't force that to happen though. If your knee doesn't like it, if your ankle doesn't like it, don't make it happen. It's just an optional instruction. Notice your front ribs, notice your belly. Take a great big belly breath. And then as you exhale, tuck in your front ribs. It helps sometimes to put your left hand on your rib cage. Breathe into those ribs. And then as you exhale, tuck those ribs in. Let your lower back become longer. Do a pelvic thrust tilt as you lengthen your lower back. Tuck in your front ribs. To get even more pelvic thrust, you can engage the left butt cheek only. That's the one floating off the ground. Tighten that left buttock. Let that left hip bone jut out sharper and pointier. For more intense quadricep stretch down the front of that left thigh. If you want even more intensity, you can take your right foot on top of that left knee. Press that left knee down and away. Let that right ankle rest on top of that left knee to draw that left knee down towards the floor. Optional again, you have the option of taking your arms up and overhead. Ballerina arms, thumbs touching the floor overhead. You can even reach up with your right hand and pull on your left wrist, curving your body over to the right so the left side body yawns open even more. So that left thigh is internally rotated. That left inner thigh is descending down towards the ground. Your left hip bone is sharp and pointing like the supermodel. You've tucked in your front ribs. You might even be doing a pelvic thrust tilt. And then you get to release. Snow angel your arms down by your hips. Reset, one foot on either side of your mat. And let your knees fall like dominoes over to the other side. Again, your legs are staggered. If both knees have fallen over to the left, then your left foot is near your right knee. You can reach down with your right hand and hike that right foot up toward your armpit, maybe flipping the toes so the toenails scuff the yoga mat. Toes point up towards the armpit, maybe. Find your front ribs. Activate your abs with a great big inhale. Exhale, tuck in those front ribs like you're getting tickled. Engage a pelvic thrust tilt like you're zipping up tight yoga pants. Tighten just the right buttock to just that right hip out sharper and pointier, and drag that right knee down towards the ground. You have the option of putting your left foot on top of the right knee to add a little bit more intensity to that quadricep stretch down the front of that right thigh. You also have the option of sweeping arms up and overhead, reaching across with your left hand to pull on that right wrist and let the right side body stretch, open even more intensely. Again, notice how that right leg is internally rotated. Your right inner thigh is descending down towards the ground. That right hip bone is sharp and pointy. Your ribs are tucked in. You're doing a pelvic thrust tilt as best you can. And then from here, snow angel your hands back down by your hips. Reset, coming back to neutral. Find your blocks. I recommend having 2 of them nearby. If you only have 1, well, you've got 3 levels on that 1 block. If you got 2, it's a little bit more stable. We're going to start with 1 block on its lowest level, its widest width across your hips. So knees bent, feet flat, pelvic thrust. Lift your hips up and slide that low-level brick underneath your butt across the cheeks. So it's below the belt, across the cheeks. It's a brick, not a thong. It goes wide width across your bottom. Knees bent, feet flat. Let your feet wiggle wide, then turn your toes in, let your knees lean together. So with your toes turn in, your knees leaning together, you internally rotate both legs. Both inner thighs descend down towards the ground. You can reach down with your hands and widen out your back side so that your back is broad and flat across the brick. With your legs internally rotated, maybe you can squeeze your knees together and find that pelvic floor. Pull in that pelvic floor, that Kegel muscle, and do a pelvic thrust tilt with your hips. Let's do that with abs and breath. So inhale, prepare, hands on your front ribs, and as you exhale, squeeze your knees together, zip up your tight yoga pants, tuck in your front ribs, do a Kegel activating the pelvic floor, and keep your butt cheeks relaxed. That's a whole lot, I know, all at once. All right, you're going to heel toe wiggle your feet narrower, closer to one another, but not quite touching. The challenge is to maintain that internal rotation on the legs, even as you bring your feet parallel to one another. Once again, hands on your front ribs. Begin with an inhale. As you exhale, squeeze your thighs together, pull in that pelvic floor, pelvic thrust, tilt your hips, tuck in your front ribs, lift your hips up off 1 brick, and if you have 2, stack 2 bricks, one on top of the other like a layered cake. Both blocks on the lowest level height, stacked one on top of the other like a layered cake. If you only have 1 block, you're going to take that 1 block, turn it on edge so it is approximately 6 inches tall, and that 6-inch tall brick will go underneath your hips. So everybody's going up to the medium height. Either 2 low bricks stacked or 1 brick on edge. So we're at a medium height. Same thing, take your feet wide, turn your toes in, let your knees lean together. Cultivate that inward rotation on the thighs. Squeeze your knees together, pull in that pelvic floor, do a pelvic thrust tilt. Hands come to your front ribs as you inhale. Then as you exhale, tuck those front ribs in, draw your front hip bones in towards one another, pull on that pelvic floor, heel toe wiggle your feet narrow, close to one another, side by side. And if it works for you, if you can work your arms narrow underneath your body without your ribs poking out, I invite you to go there. So to get there, you're going to hitchhike your thumbs out, rotate your shoulders, your arms out to your sides so that your shoulders narrow, coming close together behind your body. At this point, I highly recommend removing anything you might have underneath your head. You don't want a pillow for this one. You're doing a pelvic thrust tilt, pulling in that Kegel muscle, tucking in your front ribs, maybe jamming your elbows down, the thumb sides of your elbows down, pelvic thrust, lift your hips up into the air, coming into your full bridge pose. Can you find breath here? Can you cultivate a 4-second inhale and a 6-second exhale, even in this stress position? Can you set your hips down? Find a 4-second inhale, a 6-second exhale. In this less stressful position. Push into your feet, pelvic thrust, lift your hips up again. Remove one of the bricks if you're on two of them. If you're only on one block, turn it back down to that first level. Everybody's on one block on that low level, wide width across their hips. Settle onto that brick. And again, a 4-second inhale, 6-second exhale. And finally, push into your feet, lift your hips up, remove the brick all together. Come on down for a landing. And once again, check in with your breath. 4-second inhale, 6-second exhale. Bring one knee at a time, both knees into your chest, and rock from side to side. Work your hips away from your shoulders. Let your hips spread out on the ground. Let your shoulders roll away from your ears. And from here, set one foot down, set both feet down. Take a moment to pause. Let your bones settle. Let your muscles hang from the bones. Then you're going to bring your right knee into your chest. Clasp your hands around that right knee, around that shin. Your left knee is bent, your left foot is flat. You have options. You have the option of staying here with your left knee bent, your left foot flat, as you ease that right thigh down against your ribs. We rock a little bit as you draw that right thigh in deeper against your torso. Or if you want to kick it up in the level, activate your abs, pull in that Kegel muscle, tuck in your front ribs, and extend your left leg straight out along the ground without changing the shape of your back. So in order to extend that left leg straight, you have to activate your abs. So that's completely optional. You don't have to do that work if you don't want to. It's Sunday morning. You can stay here with both knees bent, left foot flat. So choose your own adventure on this one. Whatever you do, though, try to cultivate that 4-second inhale and 6-second exhale. And if you're not already there, please rebend your left knee, put your left foot flat. You're going to flex your right ankle and cross your right ankle onto your lap. Right ankle goes onto left thigh. Let that right knee swing away from your chest. You can use that right hand to smooth that right knee open out to the side. Take a nice deep belly breath. Maybe rock a little bit side to side as you begin to ease everything in closer to your chest. You can thread your right hand through your legs, hold behind the back of your left thigh, bring everything in closer to your chest. Again, maybe rocking from side to side as you do so. With a good solid grip on that left thigh, if you happen to be holding onto it. If you're not holding onto it, you can go ahead and let that left foot rest on the ground. So either you're holding onto the left thigh or the left foot is resting on the ground. You want it stabilized, because from here you're going to push your right ankle hard into that left thigh, and at the same time activate like you're dragging that left knee in closer to your chest. I'm doing the version with my left foot on the floor. So I'm pushing my right ankle against my left thigh hard, and at the same time engaging as if I'm pulling that left knee to my chest, but it's not actually going anywhere. This will cause that right knee to pivot or swing out to the side a little bit further, opening up the front of that right hip joint a little bit more. and then release. Let that right leg completely cross over the left. So right leg crossed over the left. I'm going to plant that left foot down on the floor, and I'm going to rock from the outside edge to the inside edge of that left foot. With my right leg crossed over top of my left, I'm letting my knees swing side to side. And then come to neutral. Gonna uncross. Both knees bent, both feet flat. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Ease that left knee into your chest, holding on around the shin, around the knee. Maybe swaying, sweeping that leg side to side as you ease that left thigh deeper against your chest. And then choosing your own adventure here. You can stay here with hands on your left knee, right knee bent, right foot flat on the ground. Or you can activate your abdominals and extend your right leg out, keeping a nice strong belly as you press out through that right heel, trying not to let your lower back arch off the floor. So choose your own adventure on that. You've got two options. Whichever option you choose, you must continue to breathe. If you have a straight leg, bend it. So everybody's coming back to holding onto their left knee, right knee bent, right foot flat on the floor. Flex your left foot, cross your left ankle onto your lap. So left ankle crosses over right thigh, the foot is flexed. Swing that left knee away from your chest. Begin to ease everything in closer to your chest. Maybe threading your left hand between your legs, maybe holding behind the back of your right thigh. Maybe rocking a little bit from side to side as you bring everything in closer to your chest. Keep that left foot crossed onto your right lap. Set your right foot down on the ground, or make sure you have a good strong grip on that thigh, because from here you're going to push your left ankle hard against your right thigh and press your right thigh hard against your left ankle. So as you do this, the right leg doesn't actually go anywhere, but your left knee swings out to the side. That left thigh externally rotates. So left ankle pressing against right thigh, ankle thigh pressing against ankle, breathing, pushing, pressing hard. And then release. Let that left leg cross over the right. At this point, right foot is down on the floor for everybody. Left leg crossed over the right, and you're going to rock from the outside edge to the inside edge of that right foot, letting your crossed leg swing side to side. And then please come back to neutral. Uncross your legs. Bring one knee at a time. Both knees into your chest. Give those knees a hug as you walk your hips away from your shoulders. And then roll over onto your side. Pick a side, any side. Continue to roll over to hands and knees. I recommend some padding underneath your knees and a couple of blocks nearby. You come into a series of lunges. So a couple of blocks for your hands, padding for your knees. Step forward with your right foot, leaving your left knee on some padding, and going long into a lunge. Inch that front foot forward so it sticks out past your kneecap. Have enough blocks underneath your hands so that your shoulders are level. And then let your head bow forward. Now, if this is squishing your belly, if it's uncomfortable, you can do this with both hands on the inside arch side of that front foot. So do make yourself comfortable. Again, use enough blocks underneath your hands so that your shoulders are level, and then let your head bow. Shoulders slide down your back, chin tucks to your chest. Then pressing into those blocks, rock back on the front heel. Bring the blocks with you back underneath your shoulders. As you peel that front foot away from the ground, waggle that foot side to side. Waggle your hips side to side. Going for a hamstring stretch on the back side of that right thigh. Next time your right foot, the big toe, turns in, take both hands to the inside arch side of that front foot. Walk both hands over to the left a little bit so you can blossom your booty out. For me, I'm going to ditch the blocks here. I can reach the floor with my hands. I'm turning my right big toe in, maybe bringing the inside arch side of that foot down to the ground. I'm bowing forward, sticking out my booty. And then recover those blocks. Pivot on your heel so your toes turn in the direction of the pinky toe. That right foot turns out. As you turn that right foot out, notice your right inner thigh swings over to meet the left. And if you cross both arms to the outside of that right leg, your inner thighs really come close together, kissing. And then release. Let's switch sides. Take your left foot forward. Let's settle into a basic low lunge. Again, use enough blocks underneath your hands so that your shoulders are level. And if you had a large breakfast or it just does not feel good on your tummy, you can have both hands on the inside arch side of that front foot. As you let your head bow, shoulders hang away from your ears. Do make sure that front foot inches forward enough so that the toes stick out past the knee. And with head bowed, belly pulled in, you're going to back it up. Rock back on the front heel, peeling the front foot away from the ground. Bringing those blocks with you back underneath your shoulders. And then you're going to waggle that front foot side to side. Waggle your hips side to side. So as you pivot on that front heel, you're turning the leg in, you're turning the leg out, all this internal, external rotation. I'm going somewhere with that in a little bit. And this is where we're going right now. You're going to turn that front foot in so the big toe dives down towards the mat. This is my left leg in front. I've turned the inside arch side of my left foot down towards the ground, and I'm walking both hands over to the right. As I bow forward, let my booty blossom. So I'm internally rotating that left leg, pressing my inner thighs back, sticking out my booty. And bring those blocks with you as you come back up and over to the other side. So pivot that front foot to swing the pinky toe side of the foot out, externally rotating the leg. Maybe taking both hands to the outside of that left leg. Notice your left inner thigh swinging in to meet your right inner thigh. And then release. All right, from here, coming back to neutral, curling your back toes under, lifting your hips, stepping forward, and as you do so, clear the clutter. Just come into a forward fold at the front edge of your mat. I recommend having those blocks, letting those blocks be underneath your hands. Heel toe wiggle your feet as wide apart as the mat with blocks on your hands. Keep your knees slightly bent and swing your hips side to side. Feel your pelvis roll across the top of your thigh bones. And then come to neutral. Still with hands on blocks, you're going to heel toe feet narrow together towards the front edge of your mat. Put a slight bend in your knees and then take a giant step back with your right foot. Bring the blocks with you underneath your shoulders. So across the front edge of your mat, you have block, foot, block. The back foot inches towards the back edge of the mat. You're going to start to pull the front leg straight. Press your back heel straight back. Press the inner back heel straight back. Pulling your legs straight into a pyramid pose. In this pyramid pose, activate as if you were taking this front foot, that would be your left foot, sweeping it to the left, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. Activate like you're pushing your left leg to the left. And as you do so, can you swing that left buttock up against your right inner thigh? Now your right leg is the one behind you. Activate like you're pushing your back heel wider out to the right, letting your right outer hip roll forward and descend down towards the ground like you're dumping pocket change out of that right hip pocket. In effect, you're scissoring, squeezing your thighs together. And then release. Step forward, step back. Giant step back with your left foot. Block slide underneath your shoulders. Across the front edge of your mat, it's block, foot, block. Arms are straight up and down out of your shoulders on bricks for balance. Feet are on two separate skis. There's an imaginary line down the middle of your mat and one foot is on either side of that line. Back heel wiggling straight back. Back inner heel stretching straight back. So you get a good strong calf stretch. Right leg is in front. You're going to engage that right leg like you're sweeping the right leg to the right, pushing it wide without it actually going anywhere. Pushing that right leg wide, at the same time pushing your left leg wide, pushing that left heel out to the left. Letting your left hip pocket dump change down onto the mat. Looking down from above, if there was a clock resting on your hips, it would be rotating clockwise. And then release, stepping forward once again into Uttanasana, forward fold. Bowing your head. Still supporting your torso. So there's room to breathe. Your knees can be unlocked. You can spread your toes. You can sway your hips from side to side. And take those blocks, set them down flat. Put your elbows on your lap. Blocks are flat. Elbows on your lap. Bow your head. Put your hands on your lap. Keep your knees bent so you still have a lap. With your head bowed, press yourself up, walking your hands up your lap, rounding, floating all the way up to standing. Now you're going to stand on those blocks. If you only have one block, you technically only need one block for this. So standing on 2 blocks, if you got them, find your front hip bones. Notice that your hips are level. Your challenge is to keep your hips level even as you remove one of the blocks. So I've kicked the block out from underneath my right foot. Both legs are straight. If I let my right hip drop, my hips won't be level. I'm going to engage the outer hip muscles of this right hip to draw this right hip up, keeping the hips level. I'm sucking that right leg into socket so my hips are level. And then step off, step on, let's switch sides. Right foot on the block, you're going to suck that left hip up, engaging the outer left hip muscle to lift that left leg into socket so your hips are level. Do discriminate and try to activate the outer hip muscle rather than the waist. It's not a waist thing. It's a hip thing. And then release. All right, let's take those blocks. You might consider turning your mat the other way so that we could do a wide stride pose and still see the camera. So you're going to turn your feet to the right. So preparing for a triangle pose. I've got my block on the outside of my right ankle. I've taken my feet wide enough apart so that my ankles are underneath my wrists. All 10 toes are kind of turned to the right. I'm going to make sure my right knee stays unlocked. I'm going to turn my right knee to the right so there's an arch in my right foot. Inhale, take arms up and overhead. Exhale, gather strength. Pull your belly in tight and then extend out over that right leg. As more weight shifts over this right leg, do make sure that right knee stays unlocked. Extending out over that right leg, let your right hand come down to the brick, the outside ankle side of the foot. Left hand on your left hip, shrug your left shoulder onto your back. Begin to turn your chest open. Now here's the challenge. Notice the right foot. That's the one in the front, the right foot. Activate like you're trying to twist the right foot on the floor clockwise. You're trying to swing that right heel in, swing the right toes out without it actually going anywhere. This will help pull that right hip towards your left thigh. And then reach up with your top hand and pull yourself all the way up. And let's switch sides. So pivot, turn your feet the other direction. The block goes on the outside of your left foot. If I glance down at my left foot, I can imagine my left foot on a clock face. The big toe is at midnight, the heel at 6 o'clock. In a moment, when you get into the pose, I'm going to have you do that foot thing again. You're going to imagine dialing the foot in the direction of the pinky toe, turning the foot counterclockwise, but it's not actually going to go anywhere. Instead, it's going to make your hips shift a little bit further. So all 10 toes turn to the left. You have a wide stride between your feet, lining up heel to heel if you're new, heel to arch if you're not so new, making sure that left knee stays unlocked. Stretching, reaching out, tipping over into your triangle pose. Pause here with the right hand on the hip, left hand on the block. And turn to look upward. And now you're going to dial the foot on the ground without actually moving it anywhere. Dial the foot on the ground, swinging it counterclockwise. And notice if you're able to pull that left buttock in tighter against your right inner thigh. It's a weird sensation. You can finish the pose with that top arm extended into the air. Then reach up through that top arm, come all the way up to standing. And release. We're going to switch sides. I'm going to turn my back to you. Hopefully the right and left isn't too confusing. I'm going to turn your right toes out once again. Lining up heel to heel if you're new, heel to arch if you're not so new. Block goes to the outside of the ankle. Looking down at your right foot, that right foot's going to dial in the direction of the pinky toe. That foot will be turning clockwise, but not actually going anywhere. Right knee is unlocked as you stretch out over that right leg, tipping over into your triangle pose. Hand on block, hand on hip. So we want to pay attention to the hips. Maybe you can see my hip here. Shoulders back and down. Activate, dial that foot, and notice if that right buttock swings in to that left inner thigh a little bit more. Top shoulder shrugs down your back. Chest turned open towards the sky. Both legs super, super straight. And as if that wasn't enough to think about, can you dial the other foot? You're going to press your left inner heel straight back. Maybe pivot that left foot a little bit more clockwise. And then unlock that standing knee. Reach up with the top hand, come all the way up. So we were still doing the same dialing of the front foot, but then I added in a dialing of the back foot as well. Both feet will dial the same direction. Let's switch sides. When in doubt, just breathe. You'll be fine. Block goes on the outside of your left foot. All 10 toes turning to the left. All 10 toes will continue to turn to the left, but they're not actually going to go anywhere. Left knee unlocks. Stretch out over that left leg. Left hand can come down to the block. Right hand can rest on your hip. If you want to check it out, notice what my hip does here. I'm going to engage like I'm turning that left foot in the direction of the pinky toe. As I do so, fancy fun stuff happens in my hips. I can even pivot the right foot now, the back foot, a little bit further, kicking that heel out, turning the toes in a little bit more. All 10 toes dialing in the direction of that left pinky toe. Interesting, fun stuff. Reach up through that top hand, come all the way up to standing. And release. Shake a leg or two. All right, you're going to take your feet wide, turn your toes out. Come on down into a horse stance, or a large plie. Toes turned out, hands braced on the inside of the knees. Drop it like it's hot. How low can you go? Take your feet wide so that you can get down low. Hang out here. Watch the demo. Shoulders back, chest lifted, hang out here as long as you can tolerate it. Check out my backside in a moment. We'll be doing one of these again. We'll be doing the triangle pose again. Tipping over into that triangle pose, dialing the feet, getting some hip action to happen. Maybe pivoting on the ball of the back foot. You're going to continue to rotate your pelvis a little bit further. The left hand will be able to extend, maybe come down towards the pinky toe side of the foot. Maybe that right arm comes up into your revolved triangle. Super fancy fun times. And that rotation started with my feet. It got into my hips, it got into my torso, and it finished with my hand. I showed you mine, you get to show me yours. So when you've had enough of this commercial break, it's time to rotate that triangle. So take your feet wide. Turn your toes to the right. Maybe put the block on the outside of that right ankle. Lining up heel to heel if you're new, heel to arch if you're not so new. Extend out into your triangle pose. Unlock that standing knee. Left hand on your hip. Now you're going to rotate your feet, dial your feet without actually moving them. So that right foot dials clockwise. That left foot dials clockwise. Maybe that left heel releases and swings straight back. And then start to rotate your hips. letting the pocket change drop out of that left hip pocket, extending out through that left arm, getting long through your side body, taking that left arm diagonal across to the pinky toe side of that right leg. Maybe sweep that right arm up and open into your revolved triangle. And then gracefully release and come on up. Let's do the second side. Oh. Maybe I'll do this with my back to you this time. All right, so all 10 toes turn to the left. Block goes on the outside of that left foot. Looking down at the left foot, you're going to be doing a counterclockwise rotation with the foot, counterclockwise rotation of the legs, counterclockwise rotation of the hips, counterclockwise rotation of the torso. But first we go into triangle pose. Left knee unlocked, stretching out over into that triangle pose. Left hand coming to the brick, right hand on that top hip. Activate without actually moving that left foot, as if you're sweeping the left foot towards the pinky toe side of the foot. Counterclockwise rotation. Pick up that back heel, maybe swing the back heel counterclockwise. Begin to rotate your pelvis counterclockwise. Extend your right arm out, get long through the right side of your body. Bring that right arm diagonal across to the outside of the leg. Finish by sweeping your left arm up and open, revolving that triangle. And then unwind. Good. Walk both hands to the right, hike a football through your legs. Wide-legged forward fold. Wide-legged forward fold. Head hanging. Find your breath. 4-second inhale. 6-second exhale. Find those sit bones. You did a lot of pivoting of those thigh bones in the hip joints. Those sit bones should be feeling a bit of work. So with your heels wide, your toes turned in slightly, knees unlocked, blossom like a flower. Activate like you're spreading your heels to get your hip bones, your sit bones to spread even more. Knees unlocked, toes turned in, heels pressing out, sit bones spreading out. Still staying down there. Reach around, find your blocks wherever they got off to. Still in that forward fold. Find those blocks. Put a block underneath each hand and come up to a tabletop with your back. Coming up into this tabletop, did you lose some of that spread in your backside? Let's reestablish it. Put a slight bend into your knees. Press your heels out. Blossom those sit bones. Maybe even do a slight cow tilt with your hips. Then find your tummy. It's that thing that's hanging out. And as you exhale, pull your tummy up without dropping your sit bones. Breathe. Maybe crawl those bricks out in front of you as far as they'll go without dropping your belly. Keeping your sit bones blossomed. Finding that balance between belly up and butt up. Try doing both at the same time. Get on up. Knees unlocked, heels spread, sit bones blossoming, belly lifted, side body long as you press those bricks out away from you as far as they'll go. And when they won't go any further, you take the edge of the brick away. Notice it. Some of the times we hang on those heels too much. Shifting your weight forward a little bit to center it between balls and heels of the feet. Knees unlocked the whole time. From here, hands can come on down to the mat. Step it back into a downward facing dog. Downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, you're going to bend your knees generously, lift your heels up, and flip those bones up towards the sky. Bend your knees, lift your heels, flip your bones, hon, as high as they'll go. And then press back through your inner heels, stretching your legs as straight as they're willing to go this morning. Rise up onto your tippy toes, bend your knees down to the mat. Child's pose, big toes together, knees apart, hips back on your heels. Let your knees go wide enough apart so that your belly is comfortable between your legs. Your big toes are together, hips are stapled back onto your heels. Now, if your hips aren't reaching your heels, here's a solution. Here's something you can try. You're going to walk your hands up onto your lap and have a seat and have a quick look. If you have a belt, the belt is very nice. You can use that belt to tie your thighs together, but you got to know how to buckle your belt. I can't help you with that from here. So if you know how to buckle your belt, great. If not, do your best. What you're going to do is tie your thighs together just above the knees. It's not a tourniquet. You're not trying to cut off circulation. You're trying to leave your knees, let your knees go no wider than your hips. So for me to have my knees hip width apart, there's a little bit of gap between my legs. Knee bones, hip bones, the same width apart. Hip bones and knee bones, the same width apart. And then if I turn the situation over into child's pose, my big toes are together. My knees are about hip bone width apart. When I sit back on my heels, I have something to press out against. The belt is preventing my legs from going anywhere. And what I'm going to do is engage like I'm pressing my thighs wide. Try to break the belt, pressing my thighs wide. They're not going to go anywhere because they're strapped together. But as I press my thighs wide, particularly my upper thighs wide apart, I can press into my hands round my back and my hips will lower closer to my heels. Notice my head is high above the ground. It's not about putting my face on the mat. It's about stapling my hips to my heels. And this usually feels really good in the lower back. And then release. All right, undo the belt. So if you like bondage yoga like that, if you like getting tied up, strapped in, join me on Wednesday night. I've got a special Wednesday night coming up this month. It's all about using your belt, tying yourself up into various poses. So from here, you're going to take your legs out in front. You're going to make your way down to the ground. As you make your way down to the ground, you might consider getting a pillow out for your head, maybe using that belt to do something fancy, tie your legs together, maybe doing something fancy with your blocks. We're going to make our way down to Shavasana.